So a few days ago, I got a question from a guy named Israel. And he asked me, he says, "Hey Brandon, what are your thoughts on digital freight brokerages?" And I answered this question, but after thinking about it, I realized that's a question that people ask relatively often because we're in a new age. We're in the information age, the technology age. And with the information and technology age, what it's all about is improving, innovating, making it a better experience for the customer. So that's what digital freight is about. So in today's video, I'm going to talk to you and give you my opinion on digital freight brokerages and also answer the question, is this the end for traditional freight brokerages, the regular, everyday freight broker? So now let's get into the business. So now the information age or technology age, computer age or digital age, you may have heard it referred to as, is a period of time from 1970 up until today. And that period of time has basically been a shift from the industrial age. Industrial age was big companies, big factories, and a whole lot of people. And what we're seeing now is a shift to the information age where it's become more streamlined. And we're talking more computers and less people, a more efficient economy. And with the digital age, just like any other industry, the trucking industry is now seeing new companies come into the marketplace backed by venture capitalists with a whole lot of money. And what their primary purpose is to come in and take their fair share of the freight transportation marketplace. And shouldn't we expect that? Shouldn't that be an expectation for business owners that are already in a marketplace? We should expect someone to come in with new technology, new innovation, new things that they want to offer to the customer to make it a better experience, which is going to force you and I, people who are already in the marketplace, to become better, to improve their processes and procedures so that they can offer a better product, a better service to the customer, to keep that competitive edge. That's what it's all about. It's not about just coming into a place and because you are providing that service already, it means that nobody else is going to come in and try and provide a better service. That's exactly what it's about. That's what a capitalist society is all about, is other companies coming in and seeing what you're doing and saying, hey, I can do that better. And not only can I provide a better service or better product, I can also provide it for less money. So now these new companies that I'm referring to, coming into the trucking industry, trying to disrupt the freight marketplace, trying to get their fair share, are called digital freight brokers. And to ensure that we're on the same sheet of music, I just decided to Google it to get a definition of the digital freight broker. And it says, a digital freight broker is an online matchmaker that connects shippers with truck drivers. It alerts the truck driver to the shipment, and the driver can then accept or deny the shipment based on their availability. So in a nutshell, we're talking about a freight broker who's matching truck drivers with freight online. That driver just basically says, hey, I'm gonna go to my app here, find a shipment, and then I'm gonna click on that shipment, and basically everything is done for me. I don't have to talk to a freight broker. I just get that freight from that software. And once I click on and accept it, everything is good. They'll send me the paperwork and I'll start the process of moving that load. But now, of course, we know that computers don't solve all of the problems when it comes to what's going on in the trucking industry. The trucking industry is a very, very complex industry. And one of the biggest problems that the trucking industry has, truckers have, is getting profitable freight. And a computer system definitely does not solve that problem. You can talk to many different truck drivers who often complain about digitized freight platforms because it's cheap freight. But to say there aren't some really good parts, really good concepts to what the digital freight broker provides, I think is a bit naive. Because when we look at the current freight broker, shipper, and the carrier relationship, we can see that there are definitely some inefficiencies there. And what companies do is they see those inefficiencies and they say, hey, we can make this a more efficient process. And that's exactly what the digital freight brokerage is attempting to do. But the question to me is, does that mean that that eliminates the regular everyday freight broker? I certainly don't think so. It's kind of like saying that, hey, because the autonomous truck is coming, that means that it's going to eliminate the regular everyday truck driver. And I just don't see that happening. I think that there are going to be a percentage of autonomous trucks that come on the scene, but that's not going to run the truck driver, the everyday truck driver out of business. There'll still be work for everyday truck drivers. You know, kind of like, just like saying, if you go to Walmart, you're going to see checkout machines there that you didn't see back in the maybe 80s, or you didn't see as many of them. Now, you're not going to see as many people working, but still you're going to see people working in those places. When you go to Walmart, you see people there all the time. But there are some jobs that are manned by computers now. With that said, I don't think that will continue to be a place for the everyday freight broker who's not focused intently on providing a service that continues to get better for the customer, focusing on what improves the customer experience, obsessing over the customer, figuring out how to better solve the customer's problems, understanding what the customer's issues are, and being able to speak to those issues, being able to provide a service or a product that solves that customer's problems. When we can do that, we continue to service those customers. We continue to win other customers' business. But if we're not doing that, if we're not maintaining that competitive edge, we're going to start to see our customer base decrease and our revenues are going to decrease. And then it's just a matter of time before the regular everyday freight broker is out of business. But I think it's based on the individual. I don't think this is a hostile takeover where, the new digital freight brokers are coming in and now there is no place for the regular freight broker. I don't think that'll happen. You won't see those disruptions until you start seeing digital freight brokers doing things that the regular everyday freight broker can't do. We hear about digital freight brokers matching shippers to truck drivers. Well, that's exactly what regular freight brokers do. We match truckers with shippers or with a shipper's freight. Now, the difference is you have now digital freight brokers that are doing that on apps or software, making it a more convenient way of getting freight. But at the same time, it means that you as a regular freight broker just have to improve your processes, make your processes more streamlined, make it easier for you and your carriers to communicate, make it easier for you and your shippers to communicate, making the process seamless. And we can do that. That's just about adding some different resources, adding some things to your service, because now you also have to think about it. You don't have the same resources as a lot of those bigger companies. So what we have to do is we have to make our services more personal. A lot of times, big companies cannot replicate what a smaller company can do when it comes down to the personalization of a service. Those type of companies, you don't even know who you're dealing with, who you're talking to. You're dealing with somebody different every time. Whereas with a smaller company, the service is more personal. You're dealing with one person. You have one person that you can go to and find out exactly what's going on with your freight. Are you gonna have that same thing with a computer? Probably not. So it's not as personal of a service. It's not, to me, as good of a service as you're going to have with a traditional freight broker. So I don't think it's something that is going to eliminate the need for traditional freight brokers, at least not right now, because again, I don't think that the digital freight brokerages are doing anything that traditional freight brokers cannot or not already doing. But at the end of the day, where the rubber meets the road, what it really boils down to, in my humble opinion, is that it's all about competition. And the principles of competition tells us that we can do one of two things. One, we can have the most efficient service, we can have the best service, and we can do it at the best prices. Or number two, we can go out of business. I think it's that simple, because our shippers have choices now. And they can either choose us or they can choose someone else. And if someone else's services are better, if their prices are better, then it's very likely they'll choose someone else. You would too. That's just business. So in summary, I do not think this is the end for the everyday traditional freight broker. I do, however, think that we are coming to the end for the average everyday freight broker. I don't think you can afford to be average anymore. I think it's all about doing the very best that you can to offer the very best experience to the customer, obsessing over that customer, making sure that you are not just meeting the customer's needs, but you're exceeding those needs. I think we're in the time now that matters, and that matters a whole lot, because customers have choices. You aren't their only choice. And when customers have choices and you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then they're definitely going to look in other places. But if we're doing what we're supposed to do, if we're making sure that the customer is getting out of the experience what they should be getting out of the experience, what they're paying for, then you're going to be okay. But I don't think you can afford to just relax, to sit back and wait for things to come to you, to sit back and be complacent, to be comfortable because you have X amount of customers. If you do that, I think you're going to end up losing customers. You're going to end up losing revenue. I think it's more about now focusing on the customers you have, serving those customers the best that you possibly can, and doing that with others as you move forward. So now that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me. Before you go, don't forget, take advantage of my free gift that I'm going to leave you in the description box. It's my free 5-video series titled How the Load Movement Process Works. You'll get a chance to come into my office and watch me actually talk to shippers, talk to carriers, and move freight. And if you want to learn more about how to get freight, check out my free video titled Don't Wait for Shippers to Send You Freight, Do This Instead. So until the next time, see you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.